Very good evening to all our viewers. We're coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst Center here in Colombo. Let's start off with a look at the headlines.
70th session of the United Nations General Assembly to commence today in New York. Sri Lankan government's decision to join as a co-sponsor paves the way for all to work together to deliver commitments reflected in the resolution. Statement from the US Secretary of State. Suspect arrested over the shooting at the Kaduwala court premises. 4 killed in a bus and three-wheeler collision in Athrugiriya.
And in your top story this afternoon, the 70th session of the United Nations General Assembly will commence at the United Nations headquarters in New York, USA today. The highlight of the UN General Assembly this year is the launching of a landmark new framework for sustainable development that will aim to end poverty and build a life of dignity for all, leaving no one behind at a 3-day UN Sustainable Development Summit this Friday. Speaking to Newsfirst, Director of the President's Media Division, Dharmasri Pandara, who is currently in New York, USA, provided more details.
The 70th session of the United Nations General Assembly is scheduled to commence at 10 a.m. New York time today. His Holiness Pope Francis is scheduled to address the inaugural session today. Thereafter, special representatives of member states as well as General Secretary of the United Nations Ban Ki-moon will address the session. The future steps in terms of peace, security, human rights remains the title of the session. The development framework for the year 2030 will also be declared at the session today. The President is slated to hold discussions with the President of the International Committee of the Red Cross, Mare, today. The President will also hold talks with the President of Switzerland today. South Africa has been named as the host nation for the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly. The President of South Africa will hold a special dinner for state leaders, including President Maithripala Sirisena today. The President will also hold bilateral discussions with Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi on the sidelines of the General Assembly today.
And on a related note, issuing a statement on the Sri Lanka co-sponsored resolution at the UNHRC session, Secretary of State John Kerry said that the resolution marks an important step towards a credible transitional justice process owned by Sri Lankans and with the support and involvement of the international community.
The communique notes that the United States, Sri Lanka and partners of the United States tabled a resolution at the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva that represents a landmark shared recognition of the critical importance of truth, justice, reparations and guarantees of non-recurrence in promoting reconciliation and ensuring an enduring peace and prosperity for all Sri Lankans. The US Secretary of State noted that the Sri Lankan government's decision to join as a co-sponsor paves the way for all of the countries to work together to deliver the commitments reflected in the resolution. US Secretary of State John Kerry also noted the resolution marks an important step towards a credible transitional justice process owned by Sri Lankans and with the support and involvement of the international community. The communique goes on to note that the United States will remain steadfast in our commitment to work with Sri Lanka as it takes these important but challenging steps.
4 people died in an accident that took place in Koskadevilla, Athrugiriya. According to the police, among the deceased is an 8-year-old child. Police said that the accident occurred this morning when a three-wheeler travelling on By Road entered the main road and collided with a private bus. The 4 main persons of the same family travelling in the three-wheeler died in the accident. Meanwhile, the driver of the three-wheeler who sustained serious injuries in the accident is receiving treatment at the National Hospital. The deceased were aged 60, 36, 35 and 8 years. Police have commenced investigations into the accident. The driver of the bus has been taken into custody. Meanwhile, an individual was found shot dead in his house in Puttalam. 22-year-old Mohammad Nefran, a resident of Pullipuram, Puttalam, was shot dead. The 22-year-old, a father of 2, was shot at while asleep at dawn today. Puttalam police have launched a manhunt in search of the suspect. The suspect in connection to the shooting that took place at the premises of the Kaduvela Magistrate Court has been arrested. Commanding Officer of the Police, STF Deputy Inspector General of Police Ranjit Pereira said that the suspect who was in hiding was arrested in the Dompe area this morning. The firearm used by the suspect to carry out the shooting was also taken into police custody. Ranjit Pereira said that steps are being taken to hand over the suspect to the Dompe police station. Meanwhile, an individual was stabbed to death with a sharp object in the Kibil area, which falls under the jurisdiction of the Chilla Police Division. The deceased was a 21-year-old. A magisterial inquiry was launched into the death this morning. Police say that they were able to apprehend the suspect when he attempted to flee the area. In some weather news this afternoon, the Department of Meteorology says that the possibility of increasing rain in the southwestern and parts in the high areas rather. It adds that showers or thunder showers will occur at times in the western, southern and Sabaragamu areas.
Department of Meteorology says that the sea area extending from Puttalam to Kankasanture via Mana and Mathura to Patiklo via Hambantota will be fairly rough at times, as the wind speeds can strengthen up to 50 km per hour at times. It adds that there may be temporary localized strong winds during thunder showers. The department notes that the general public is kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by lightning activity. 3 persons were killed in lightning strikes yesterday. 1 person was killed in a lightning strike in Bakamuna. The Office of the Police Media spokesperson notes that the victim was struck by lightning while bathing last evening. His wife, who was injured, was admitted to the Athanakadaval hospital. 2 women were killed when lightning struck a house in Handavalpola, Malsirapura last evening.
Speaking at an event held in Colombo last evening, Minister of Tourism John Amaratunga had this to say.
Sri Lanka, the tourism #1 foreign exchange earner for the Sri Lankan economy. Just now, we have the foreign employment, we have the apparels, but they are not the net foreign exchange earning institutions. For apparels, for example, we have to import quite a lot of raw material. Even though at the end of the day they talk of high earnings, but in tourism is a net earning that we get on the tourists who come into our country.
On that note, we wrap up lunchtime news, and it was an absolute pleasure having you with us. For the latest stories, log on to our website www.newsfirst.lk. For the news team, I'm Joe Loudschool. Have yourself a great day ahead.